Hello everyone. So sorry for the delay. So welcome all of you to the backend session of Game with VIT. Earlier we had the similar session, but it was of front end, not backend. This session will cover the backend aspect of it. About Tag. So Tag is official gaming club of VIT. Uh, it is the most official. It is the most official club of gaming tournaments and game development. About me, so my name is Santushti and I am doing BTech in ECE. I love to design and I am a web developer also. So let's move forward to the session. Um, so let us try to understand what exactly a backend is. Backend is a code that runs on the server that receives requests from the clients and contains the logic to send the appropriate data back to the client. So, for example, if you are watching a website, that all of it is front end, but whatever is going on the back side of the website, whatever data you're giving to that website, that data is stored in the form of backend, which is further used by the server owners for their purposes. So backend consists of mainly three parts: server, the app part, and database. The server, this is the computer that receives request. App basically is that which is running the application which is running on the server. That basically listens to the request, retrieves the information from database, and sends a response. And databases are used to organize and persist data. So let's talk about a bit more about server. So a server is basically a computer which listens for incoming requests. Whatever request is incoming, either from a front end or from the client side, that is received by the particular computer or a machine that is called server. Though there are machines made and optimized for this particular purpose, any computer that is connected to a network can act as a server. In fact, you will often use your very own computer as a server while developing apps or websites. Let's try to understand the app. So the core function of app will be that the server runs an app that contains the logic about how to respond to various requests based on the HTTP verb and URI. So URI basically is Uniform Resource Identifier. A pair of an HTTP verb and URI is called route, and matching both of them on the basis of request is called routing. So some of the handler functions will be middleware also. So in this context, a middleware is any code that executes between the server receiving a request and sending a response. So for example, if a response is requested, that and a response is sent. So the middle job is done by a middleware. These middleware functions might modify the request objects, query the database, or otherwise process the incoming request. Middleware functions typically end by the passing control to the next middleware function rather than sending actually a response. Eventually, a middleware function will be called that ends the request response cycle, whatever the HTTPS creates, which responses back to the client. Often programmers will use framers like Express or Ruby. In this session, we will be talking more about MERN stack, which is Mongo, Express, React, and Node, rather than going to MySQL, Ruby, and all that stuff, PHP and all. Because the backend, I think, is more fluent and more advanced in this zone. So for now, just think that each route can have one or more handler functions that are executed whenever a request is routed to HTTP verb or URI, and when it is matched. Okay, so coming to databases are commonly used on the back end of web application. So provides an interface to save data in a persistent way of memory. whatever data we receive from the client's side, it is stored in database, which reduces the load on the main memory of the server CPU and allows the data to be retrieved if the server crashes or loses power. Many requests are sent to the uh, server, and from that it is fetched as a database query. A client might request for the information, which is a particular information which might be stored in the database, and that database is fetched, uh, and the data is given back to the client. uh, One more term comes when we talk about database, which is database management system, like DBMS, which is essentially nothing more than to computerize data keeping system. Users of the system, given facilities, they perform several kind of operations, such as system manipulation or the database management, or the database structure itself. So let's understand with an example. Uh, So let's understand this with an example. So first of all, just imagine there's a girl called Shweta who is shopping on a particular website called Super Suits. So while shopping, she likes a dress particular and she wants to know the information. So she clicks on the picture of the dress of her choice, and that the click event will make a get request to that particular database server which that supersuites.com is having. So just remember one thing, that get a request describes the kind of request which the client is just asking. It will not change anything, not modify anything. It will just fetch the data, whatever which is in the database. So the URI here, URI, which is Uniform Resource Identifier, URI will specify the product ID, whatever the ID which the product is having, and will look for the more information about the product. And for example, let's say the product has an ID of 66432 something. Well, now Super Suits is a company which will, of course, definitely have a huge number of products and many different categories for filtering through them. So the actual URI will be more complicated than this, of course, but this is the general principle of how the URI and resource identifiers work. So then what happens is, like, Shweta's request travel across the internet to one of the supersuit server. This is one of the slowest step in the process, uh, because the request cannot go faster than the speed of light and it might have a long distance to travel. So for this very reason, major websites with users all over the world will have many different servers. So having many different servers, the request will be directed to whatever server which will be the nearest, which will be the closest and the nearest to them. The server which is actively listening to the request from the users will receive the Shweta's request. Now, the event listeners that match the request, whatever the HTTP verb and the get ID product, which will be matched, and that ID will be triggered, and that the particular code will run on the server between the request and the response. And as I mentioned earlier, that the term which is called is middleware, which represent that the system is request receives the request and sends the response. In processing the request, the server code makes a database query to get more information about the dress. The database contains all other information as well that Shweta wants to know about the dress. For example, the name of the product, price, few more reviews, and the string which will provide more images to the project, of course, because and that all will be shown to the client side. The database query is executed and the database is sent to the requested data back to the server. It's worth noting that database queries are one of the slower steps in the process, but since we increase the number of servers, then the servers who are listening to the requests are more, and hence the efficiency will be further increased. This query, this query itself might have to go across the internet. So now the server will receive the data and it needs from the database, and then it is now ready to construct and send its response back to the client. The response body has all of the information needed by the browser to show Shweta more details, whatever the price, review, size, and all that stuff, whatever which is available in the database about the dress, whatever she is interested in. The response header will contain an HTTP status code, a particular code to indicate that the request has succeeded. Just in case to assure, the response will travel across the internet back to the Shweta's computer. Now Shweta's browser receives the response and uses the information to create and render the view that Shweta has ultimately seen. So this is how the whole cycle of databases and the backend work. So that was a brief introduction about how the backend works. Now let's move further to our session. Now let's come inside the screen and let's see the code which we wanted, the front end on which we were working. Uh, so let's see the front end on which we have to work. So this was our front end. If you want to see more on how front end works, then you can see our previous session. But this was our front end. So let me tell what exactly was this. So this was a website in which we have taken registration for our tournament, Game Escape. So the Game Escape was having two games, Valorant and CS:GO. So people can register for Valorant or CS:GO. So it is designed in such way that you can see there's a partition over in between, and one side depicts the characters of Valorant, and another side depicts a particular image of CS:GO. So if a user wants to click wants to register for Valorant, he or she will click to the right side, and it will take them to the actual registration page. Either you can go for solo team registration, or you can go for playing as a team. Like you can create your own team, and you can join a team also. Like for example, for like you have your own team, so instead of filling the name of the whole team, you just have to fill the team name and your details, whereas your other team members will click on join team and will write the same team name in which you have the team leader have registered, and then he or she can submit it. In the same way, we have the form for CS:GO also. Um, Play solo and team info home and also. So for this, the front end part we have already covered. Today we are gonna look at its back end part. So first of all, I would like to tell what I did here and all. So number one thing is, if you want to take the link of GitHub link, so number one, first thing you have to go to the previous session, and in the description you'll find the GitHub link of the front end portion, and then you have to install GitHub desktop. So most of the people also work on GitHub directly in the Chrome version, but I generally prefer GitHub desktop because I feel somehow comfortable in this. And then here you have to log in to your account. Yes, to your account you have to sign in, and then it will route you to the browser, and then you have to log in through your whatever GitHub account. And in the GitHub you can just you have to clone this particular uh, code into your PC, PC or laptop. So okay, so if anyone of you does not know about VS Code, so VS Code is basically a software, you can say, or a tool which helps us to write code efficiently. And you can download it. It is free on Chrome. You can download it. You can just write it like download VS Code, and it will for Windows or for Mac, and it will come. uh, I'm not going to that. For cloning this, I would say that you can go on your GitHub desktop, and to go to your file, and here you'll get the option of clone repository. And here are github.com, GitHub entreprise, but you can go to the URL option. So the URL option is the most easiest because you just have to copy this thing and paste here to clone it. I'm not cloning it because I have already cloned it in my PC. It's already cloned, but you can clone it using this thing. Now I would like to go to the actual code, which was what I did here was my bad. Okay, so what I did here was an npm start. Basically, this website is somehow a React based. So npm is basically here I used Node. So in order to start this code in your PC, you have to install Node. So let's install Node now. Here is an official website of Node.js. You can just download Windows, Mac, and whatever source you're having. Here is the link for downloading Node. And after that, there are some codes which you have to write in your command prompts, which you can get in another website, which is okay. So here you got this. Uh, all the agreements and all, you can just click next because I have already installed. Then no need to install like again for me. And once you have installed, I'm not going into Node more because Node is like kind of thing which we have covered in front end. It was just for that those who don't know. So after that we can just start writing like npm start, or maybe there are a lot of codes to initiate the node, which is npm init, then npm audit fix and all that, which you can easily find on Google or Chrome and all. No need to memorize them. And with that you can just open this code and can get the front end. So talking about front end again, this was our front end. So the next step which comes is MongoDB installation. So first of all, I would like to. Okay, so sorry for the uh, connection. Like it was some internet issue. So talking about I was talking about MongoDB. So MongoDB is a source available cross platform, which is a database program. So most of the people nowadays use MongoDB for the backend because it is quite useful, and many processes like schema, MySQL, and all, it reduces the time, and it is free to use, and the community server of it is very free and very beneficial. Like so let's start to download. Let's download it. So in MongoDB has two editions basically, community and the paid version. But the paid version, but the community version is a lot efficient. You can almost do every kind of work on this. So you can just go and download it. I have already downloaded it. So like I don't need to download it again. So you can just open it and install it and all that. Here you can uh, okay, what I need to show you is okay, what I wanted to show here is, one second. Okay, so here I wanted to show that whatever when you install MongoDB, a folder will be created in whatever drive which you have saved. So so you just have to open it, then go to server, then 6.0, then bin, and next what you have to do is edit the system environment variables. So here what you have to do is you have to put this path into add to path. Uh, the advantage of doing this is so that you don't have to start again and again your MongoDB by coming to this path again and again. You can just simply go to your prompt and write Mongo, and you're done. So you can just go to okay, I'll just tell once again. So after opening this path in your MongoDB, you'll probably find this in your program files in C drive or whatever drive which you have installed, and then open the bin, and this path you have to add to edit the system variables, environment variables. uh, okay, here in on environment variables you can go to path and then edit, and then you can add a path here. My bad. Okay, so now this path is added, and then okay, and then we can click okay, and when we'll open the command prompt, we can type Mongo, and one second. Okay, so here the path is, as you can see here, the path is added, and then you can open into your command prompt very strong, very efficiently. One more thing, which is that along with MongoDB, when you install MongoDB, there's one more thing, which is MongoDB Compass, which is downloaded side by side with along with the MongoDB, and basically what is MongoDB Compass is like you can understand MongoDB Compass by. You can understand MongoDB Compass by it's a GUI. So what is a GUI? So basically it's a system which shows whatever you have done in as a querying, aggregating or analyzing in MongoDB, whatever you have done, so in a visual environment. So it is almost free, and it is on Linux and Mac also. So you can just if you download the community version of MongoDB, you can just go and download that particular MongoDB Compass also. But I would prefer to work that you should work on command prompt also instead of directly working to MongoDB Compass, because that is more beneficial and efficient also. Talking about GUI, so basically GUI is graphic user interface. So the interface which allows the user interface to interact with electronic devices through graphical icons and audio indicators. Well, this might looks good and soothing to the eye, but as a programmer, you should know how to work in command prompt as well. So after all of this, let's try to get into whatever code we have written for backend for this particular website. So first of all, I would like to tell you all about this website once more, uh, which is that you can get the the database in play solo, which is like quite easy. But when we go on play as a team, I would like to tell you all some information, which is like when we click on create team, according to the client side, what we see is the user will click on a team name, and it's his or her personal details, right? But another person who will join a team, and he or she will write the same team name and his or her full details. So the team name should be same. And when it goes to the backend, if we talk about the backend, the example which we took of Shweta, the the same ID must be created for the team name, as in the case of dress, which was liked by Shweta. Just in the previous example, what happened was that Shweta liked a dress and she clicked on it, and whatever ID was that dress was having, the server listened to it, then that ID was triggered, and then it was sent back to and then the and then it was sent to databases and query, and then from there the information was fetched, and then it was shown to the client side, that is the Shweta's mobile. Right. In the similar way, the team, whatever team name once will register, it should go to a particular ID, so that that ID should come back whenever a particular client, whenever another particular client should trigger it. By the term triggering, I mean if someone will try to join a team, then he or she should write, when he or she will write the similar team name, the database should get the same number of ID, whatever ID was there written by the leader, and should show the particular, like for example, if in Valorant there only 5 players are allowed, and if 5 players have already registered, so the particular team name, for example the team name is XYZ, so whatever XYZ has an ID, the server will, the next time the sixth person, when he or she will fill the form, then he or she will trigger the same ID, and then the ID should respond that no, the limit is already full, 5 players are already over, you cannot register, like the limit is full, that's what meant to say. So this logic behind the backend is the most important logic, which if you understand is everything. So let's come to what code we have written in the backend, and let's try to understand the similar logic which I just now explained in the form of code, not in the form of speaking. Mm, So as you can see here, there are a lot of files, folders, and all. I will explain everything one by one. So there are almost JSON and all that stuff. So first of all, node modules I would like to explain. So basically, they are the JSON modules. JSON is JavaScript Object Notation, which is the JSON data, which we have included in our site, because it is which we have included in the backend code, because the code is almost JavaScript basis. It is uh, it is a part of Node, Express, React, and Merge, like basically the Merge stack. So JavaScript object notation is required. The models, okay, so when we come to models, we have whatever user JS folder we need. I will explain the folders one by one. And in public we have the assets and all, but in SRC here is the main thing. Whatever four folders we have, which is app.js, create team.js, index.js, and join team.js. So let us try to understand one by one. So these are just the name of the folders. It is not necessary that you keep the same. Okay, so coming to create team.js. First of all, you can see there something is written import Axios. Okay, what is Axios, and uh, like why we have imported it and all that stuff. So Axios basically is a JavaScript library which is used to make an HTTPS request from Node. So whatever Node will start the port, that HTTPS request will be fetched by the Axios. So that's why we have imported Axios here. The HTTPS request which comes from Node, it is used to make the library of Axios. So the pro- so JS or XML HTTPS request from the browser and supports the Promise API that it is native to that particular server. It can be used at intercept HTTPS requests and responses and enables client side to protect against XSRF. It also has an ability to cancel requests. So that's why we have Axios here. Axios has different you can say forms, or the subparts you can say in a lame language, which is post use URL user and then. So you can, as you can say here, I have written dot post. So what is this? So basically, for let's just go back to the example which I gave. What happened when Shweta clicked that application on her phone? Whatever data that dress was having, whatever ID it was having, the server listened to that ID and then went to database. Right. In the similar way, when we code axios.post, it updates the server about the request. Like it just stores or update whatever the request is there. So it is post. Then you can say there is a one more function which is called dot then, and dot then is promise handling. So I just talked about promise handling in Axios. Promise handling here is whatever the response in which the front end will give, that response will be promise handling. With whatever will the client side will receive, that promise handling will be the then function. Then let's go to server JS. Rest of the things I will explain sequence by sequence, because that is the right path to explain. So in server.js you can see we have mentioned various express and all that ports and all. So basically these all are nothing. These all are just we have mentioned that, okay, we are using express, okay, we are using the port which is 8000, and okay, we are mentioning, okay, so whatever user.js you might remember, which was in model function. So we have made model folder. We have made it as a portion, and here we have imported it. So that we have defined it as constant user, and which is the particular path model user function. And then body parser, I will talk about this body parser later. And mongoose, okay. to Mongoose is used here to connect MongoDB. Here I would like to tell about what is Mongoose. So Mongoose is an ODM library. ODM is object data modeling uh, for Node, MongoDB and Node.js. So it manages relationship between data, provides schema validation, and is used to translate between object in code and the representation of those objects in MongoDB. So whatever the data or the schema is represented in MongoDB, it will translate and will do all the necessary schema validation and will manage the relationships between all the data and ODM and all that stuff for both Node.js also and MongoDB also. So it is kind of an ODM, which is object data modeling. Object data modeling means the same, which of course provides a relationship between data and schema validation, and which used to translate between the objects in the code. Okay, so let's come about const cors. What is cors? So cors is another library which is called cross origin resource sharing. This is a very interesting library because so it is a very interesting library because okay, so let's understand cors in this way, that front end and back end both they are run on the separate ports. For example, front end is running on 5000 port and back end is running on 8000 port and all. So we need a connection in between, right, to connect both of them. That cross origin resource sharing is CORS. So basically it gives permission in simple language. You can say it gives permission which allows the users for data transfer and all that stuff. So this is CORS. Now let's move to parse JSON. Okay, so body parse JSON. Before that, I would like to remind you about the middleware which we talked about in our example. So the middleware was that it passes on JSON and then backend and frontend, and then the work which is done in that particular backend. So let's before understanding the body parser JSON, let's understand a term which is BSON. Uh, okay, JSON, as I already mentioned, it was node modules and JavaScript object notation. BSON, okay, BSON is binary JavaScript object notation. Uh, so let's understand a bit of BSON and the difference between BSON and JSON. It is not that much, but when we talk about JSON, database like NEDB, Redis, etc., they store information into JSON format, and JSON use quite less space in when we compare from BSON. And BSON, like MongoDB, stores data in the form of BSON format. So it is the name of format, that's it. And it use a little more space as compared to JSON. So this body parser.json is a call to call the particular code of part of JSON into this, because as you can see in node modules, you can see thousands of there are legit hundred of folders. You cannot search in between, right? um, that's why the particular function we have to call, that is body parser.json. And cause I've already explained you, it's called cross origin resource sharing. Whatever resources we are sharing, cross connection. cross ports, I mean. Let's move on to app.post, whatever here is written. So what happens here is that app.post is creating a request from backend to put a particular data, whatever data is there. So one second. Here, here I explained you about post and get. Okay. Okay, so in Axios there is one more attribute which I forgot to mention, which was dot get. Dot post was there, dot then was there, and there is one more option which is attribute, which is dot get, and get is which sends the responses request to receive the response, which send a request to receive the response. So dot post means dot post is when server gives an update to request that database, and dot get is to send the request to receive the response, and dot then is of course promise handling, which will show whatever the client side front end is. So whatever post we will put here, and okay, if response data, so it is just the confirmation, that's it. So whatever post we have created here, we have to bring the similar request here also in the server JS, because whenever someone create team, basically you can understand create team folder is, this folder is basically whatever we have to receive from the client from front end, and server JS is whatever our server, like whatever we are developing, our server is storing. Create team is, for example, if I click on create team and I create my team, so whatever if I, for example, fill any kind of team name and all, this code is to fetch whatever I will write here, or whatever client will write here, and server.js folder, in this folder whatever code is written will help us to bring whatever data is there on our server. So now whatever here our server is updated, which is requesting to to the database, and here we have connected with this port to uh, to bring it to our actual database, to our server basically. Then here once the data comes, and then we this rich body and all, it is just a function where where the structure of it which will set and all. The constant user and await user is just the particular of users, which will help us later on for creating a synchrony and smooth server JS, so that we can actually get the particular data. Then let's move on to uh, this const user dot await users. Okay, so one thing I forgot to mention was that whatever model we have taken from user, we also put it here also. Okay, so let's go into a user.js once. Okay, here to just to explain, I have written only three arrays, and three. Okay, let's not mention the term array here. Three terms, which is username, mobile name, number, and user. Okay, username, mobile number, and user type, and team name and team ID is team user ID is like the server is giving the ID, right? But the main is username, mobile number, and user type. Okay, so so whatever we have taken from user, we are gonna store it on server.js. So as you can see, we have made an array inside a constant. So what is array? Basically, an array is you can say Okay, so I was talking about array. So what is array? Basically, array is a collection of items of same data type, which is stored in contiguous memory locations. This makes it easier to calculate the position of each element by simply adjusting an offset to base values. So if we set the base values to offset, then it makes it very simple. So for simplicity, the array is used, and whatever and when we need multiple data from a user. So as you can see in form, there are a lot of data like VIT mail, rank, right ID, and Discord ID and all. But just for explanation, I have reduced it because reduced the code. So here in user.js, whatever, okay, so if we try to understand user.js completely, first of all, of course, we have uh, imported mongoose because we have to connect with MongoDB, and we have not connected with MongoDB Compass here because I usually work in command prompt, not on Compass, because I don't have the habit of working on GUIs, but you can work upon. You can just connect your Mongo Compass to. You can just connect your command prompt to Mongo Compass by this connection. You can get this connection from your command prompt and all. But I don't usually do so. I just connect directly Mongoose from MongoDB from Mongoose here. Here it is connected. Then, as I mentioned earlier, that okay. So as I mentioned you earlier, Mongoose was the ODM for Mongo and Node.js, which manages relationship between data and schema validation and all. Here you will see a lot of terminologies in Mongo. Okay, so first of all, I would like to explain you about the terminologies which are in Mongo. Mongo. So number one is documents, then fields, then schema, and then models. So, first of all, let us understand what is documents. So, documents are equivalent to records of rows of data in SQL. So, for example, if you try to compare it with SQL, it is rows of data. If you guys don't know about SQL, just understand that document is a term given to a particular row, whereas field is given a term as a term which depicts columns, whatever columns in SQL table. If you don't know SQL table, just forget SQL, and it is just understand that documents are rows and fields are columns. While schema, like Mongo is basically schemaless, but SQL defines a schema while table definition. So Mongo schema is a document data structure that is enforced via the application layer. So it is schemaless, but it is just a term which is defined by the table definition. And the last is models. So the models are high order constructors that take a schema and create an instant of a document, which is equivalent to record in relation database. So first of all, documents, then fields, then schema, and then model. In this way MongoDB works. So what happens is, if you consider the row in SQL, that is document, and columns, which is field, and then Mongo, which is schemaless, but in through SQL, if we define, then it is schema, and the similar way model is there. So user when we come to MongoDB and user schema, uh, the user whatever information we need, we just have typed here. As I have mentioned earlier, here we have full name, registration number, and all that stuff. For simplicity, I made only three array because more will create confusion. But it was initially it was there, but I just adjusted this in order to explain. So as you can see, we have mentioned here. If you know a little, if you know a little bit type of JavaScript, you just have you should have explained it. You just have should have recognized these terms. And even if you don't know JavaScript, it's nothing. It's basically whatever username or VIT registration or Discord ID, whatever you want to ask, and then semicolons, and then in brackets you will mention the type, and if it's required or not required, and all that stuff. So so let's go back to our server.js. Okay, so we were here. So whatever const user dot await. So we have taken the data from user here, and confirmed also if the status is okay or not on the client side as well, and here also as well. On the client side, by the term client side, I mean that if you will click submit button, they will here a message will pop up that yes, the form is submitted or whatever. And then and then it will come to the client side, to the backend side also, that yes, status is okay, okay from the user. Then as I mentioned in a create team also, Axios, we had three major attributes, which was dot post, dot then, and dot get. Dot post was when we are updating a server to store or update it, so that the database could change, could be there, right? Just to trigger them. Dot get was that we are sending the request to get the response, and dot then was to promise handling, which will come in the front end side. So in the same way here, if we'll take app.get here, means whatever request we are getting to get the responses. So whatever responses we have received in the join team section, we are fetching it here, and of course confirming it. Constant user, of course, from the user.js we are taking it, uh, taking the data, and okay, so here we have made an object which defines user type create team. So what exactly happening here is, first of all, what we did was we mentioned the server, we actually triggered the server about the data which was there in user.js, to bring it, just to trigger it. And then we asked the server to get whatever the joint team has data, whatever joint team was having data was there from the client side, not from our side. So whatever the data will come from the client side, we will directly will be first of all received on the server, and the code for this, and this code depicts that command. Another thing is, what like the logic which I explained you earlier, was which was that if someone will create a team here, the team will get a particular ID, and that particular ID, and then whenever someone will join a team and will type the same team name, it will go to the same team ID, whatever the team ID was there in the create team, and then the person can join the same team. So here what we are doing is, we have made an object with user type create team, so that the information is coming from create team as well, and then the status is again okay. Then again we have requested the server to update and store or update the information, the whatever database from the joint team, and ID, of course, which I was talking about. And okay, so these are arrays which I was talking about. So if you know somehow about array, you might know all these, but still for simplicity you can understand that whatever amount we can collect from the data from contiguous memory locations, uh, in in a more simpler version, I can just say that whatever data we need, we will just type it here in a particular, of course, in a particular coding language format, and this array and this array should be same. There, as you can see, username, mobile number, user type, and the username, mobile number, and team user ID. Of course, user type we don't need. Uh, my bad. It was team user ID, because we need whatever the ID is submitted by the leader, so that the other person can join as well. So we have three arrays. Sorry, one array. Okay, three objects in one array, and use username, mobile number, and team user ID. And this the same will go here, but in actual website we needed 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, so 6 7. Okay, so we needed 7 details. So here accordingly seven datas will be there, and here also 7 will be there, but it's just for simplicity. Okay, so now we have requested the server for the create team. We have requested the server for we have requested from the front end side to server to get it to the server side database. And now what we have to do is we have to submit all of whatever the data is there. So, okay, so these all are catch error and all. For example, if an error is there or something, and app listen. Okay, dot listen is name of port. Whatever port we want to define, like I was talking in the initial times, I was talking about that front end and back ends are working on the on the different ports. So whenever there is the exchange system of HTTPS and all. So for giving permission, CORS is required. So CORS was the library for cross-origin resource sharing. So in the same way, we have to define a particular port so that we can mention a CORS here. So this code is for defining a particular code. Now if we coming to join team side, so yes, we have to check about how join team system works. So let's come to join team.js section. Let's try to understand what this folder is depicting. First of all, of course, we have to import whatever is necessary. React is necessary, Axios is necessary here. One thing which I would like to mention here is you might be wondering why we have not imported all these things here, and like why we are importing different things here. So I would like to explain that whatever things we need in a particular folder, we will import that only. For example, let's say in app.js, I will explain app.js later, but for now in app.js I have imported this line. Okay, as you can see, this line is kind of gray as compared to this line. It's kind of dull, and this is an indication of VS Code that this line is not in use. So, as you can see, import use state and use effect. These modules are not there in this folder. These modules are not present. So that's why it is shown in gray. and it is shown in gray because it is a significance that these are not working properly. So these are not working and these are not being used because as you can see, there are no state function and use effect function. So where will they be used, right? In the same way, here you can see no axios, or no, you can see no react and all. That's why we have not imported that's why we have not imported react and axios here. In the similar way, the mentioning of port and all is not required in joint team section, because it will be useless. Even if you write it, it will become in gray portion, or in somehow gray, or if you are working in Atom or another tool except Visual Studio Code, then you might get an error. So we should know which module to import when. We are importing React and Axios here because we need these modules here. Okay, so let's see what joint team is doing. Uh, Joint team button is doing. So okay, so we have made an array here also to use the state, and then set team, and then the same array, username, mobile number, and team user ID. Whatever array was there in user ID, the same array we are using here also in joint team also. And then the same, as you can see, we can getting the request from the same port. Axion Axios.get. Axios was having three main attributes, which was Axios.get, .post, and .then. .post was to update the server, to store or update the requests. Get was to send the response, to send the request, to get the responses from the front end. And then dot then was promise handling, which will come as a response from the front end. So we are getting this localhost dot 8000. So, so what is 8000? Basically, as you can see in server.js, we have mentioned our constant port as 8000. So this depicts that our backend is working on 8000 port. And as you can see here in our front end, the port is 6969. So the connection is established on that port, and backend is on 8000 port. So this port is fixed, and we have fixed. And here also you can see we have listen like we have the code that app.listen.port something. Even if we try to understand that, it's basic English, that app.listen, so maybe the particular app or the server is listening to a particular port. So okay, so we have fetched whatever port on which our backend is working, and to send the particular information on that server only. Let's try to understand this in a more simpler way. For let's just assume that we have two things. For example, create team and join team. Just suppose that there are two separate things, okay, and we want to get the information. We want to get a particular. We want to get whatever client or the user of the website has put the data into it. So what we will do is, we will create we have created a create team.js, and in from that we should need the data which the users will fill in create team also and in join team also on the server side, not on somewhere else. So what we are doing is, again and again, in create team also, what we did was, uh, we did axios.post, the same local host. First of all, we just defined whatever uh, port we are working on in backend, and then we defined the post of it, then the function, and then in this the same thing we are doing in join team also. Whatever array we just mentioned the array, and the array in details, what string it should be or what type it should be, it is already mentioned in user.js. So whatever data we have in this, we are just bringing it and then sending it to server. That's it. That's what we are doing. Set displayer dot response data dot user. And then this is just the confirmation. Now, now you might be seeing a handle click. So let's suppose that you have to pass in additional parameter values or arguments. On that, it is necessary for you to go to on click handler. Okay, so what are the solutions for it? So suppose there are a couple of approaches which we can like take a look, and just suppose we have to get some information after something is being clicked. Like for example, if I click for example on Google also, if I click on Instagram, I need some information. Okay, so that's what I need. So this is basically, you can say, on click handler. So number one thing is to return a function that returns a function. Okay, so like you can create a function that returns a function. So in the example, you can define a property called handle click. So what is handle click? Handle click is a function which accepts argument 1, and which is the value. Let's try to understand in the similar, in a very simpler way. For example, you want to return a function which is returning a function. So that function, if you see, it must be having some kind of argument, and that argument should is referred as handle click. And when you invoke it once, it will return to another function which can be used on click react listener. In the example here, you can see handle click method and passing a string value in it so that it may be printed in the browser console. This here you can see the handle click we have mentioned. Number second thing is that you can add custom data to the attribute also. Like data attributes also work in the similar way. And number three is that you can set an on-click event in sub components. You can also create a React component that accepts two properties. The first property is props values, which it maybe act as a primitive values or an objective value. The second property is props on click. So the custom prop will return the value that's given to the particular component. Inside the button component, a variable can be created, which is called a handle click. Whatever button which is there, whatever button which is there in our front end, which we have created, submitted button, we can create a variable in it which is handle click. Handle click, again I have mentioned that it is a return function which will return a particular function. Here so here handle click is there. Handle join is not different, but in a similar way of saying it in different id. So id here, we are getting the particular amount of the particular type of id to and then console.log join team. Okay, so when this code will depict whatever if you have okay, if you have joined a team and submitted, if you have typed the correct in details and when you click submit, this response will come. uh, huh, this response will come, which is join team. Axios.post, here again we have written the similar thing. The port, the backend port, which was our port was declared on port 8000. Generally the backend ports are declared on 8000 only, but you can work on 6000 or 5000 as well. Well, you will learn these port things when you will work more on backend and stuff. And now we can think of the confirmation thing, that if the data status is okay. Data status will mean that whatever whatever we have mentioned in, okay, so we mentioned the array, right? Whatever array whatever type we want or requiredness we want, if everything is fulfilled, then the status will be okay. and then the console.log will say the team updated, because we need to update team every time, right? Because if, for example, more than 5 people will register for the same team, then this cannot be happening, right? Because in Valo only 5 people can play in a team. So we need to update that team again and again, so that every time a person joins, so that more users cannot join it. Here, okay, here on click and handle click, whatever we did to create that return function, it is the same thing. Handling events with React elements is very similar to handling events on DOM elements. So when you go to DOM elements, there are some syntax differences. That's it. If you know about DOM events and elements. But even if you don't know, there are some synthetic events according to V3 specs. So that whatever course I taught about, course which was across origin resource sharing, which that was another thing which was named as that front end and back end, which will give the permission in between the ports. So in this way you can understand, that is, if you go to handle click, you have to create a variable in that particular button, so that it could return the similar function. Here what we have did is, here we have defined the type of input whatever we want. For example, in username, of course, we will need text, and in mobile number section we will need numbers. In 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 registration number you will need something in capital letters, so you can define that also. And in Discord ID hash now, so you can define everything according to you, which is defined as type text. This you can learn in front end also. This is a part of front end. um, Next what we can do is, again we are declaring the that function, and then it is closed. Export default joint team. So whatever this line depicts this whole uh, folder, you can say. Like whenever you need this folder, you can just write import joint team. That's it. Whenever sometimes you want to call this folder, right, you can just write import joint team. So this whole folder will come into whatever folder you want. Because for example, sometimes most of the full stack developers, what they do is they work simultaneously on front end as well as back end. They don't differentiate it. They don't make separate files for it, because they know both front end also and back end also. So what they do is, in the same folder, they just create separate different files, and then they will uh, they will just do like this: export default joint team and all. So if the particular user wants to change its CSS or some HTML styling and all, so he or she can just make a new folder and write whatever, for example, joint team.css, and then just on the top of it can just import default joint team, and that's it. So that's why these all things are worked. Then coming back to the ID explanation, for whatever I explained in the initial time, it was that the time has come finally that we need to understand that ID thing, because every team name must be given an ID, so that the database can, so that whenever user can trigger that particular ID, the database could come back with a response to the client. So let's get into that ID. So what I was telling is that whenever someone will create a team and will write a team name, for example, I write again. Let's take the example of X and Y. I'll write XYZ, and so my team will be given an ID by default by the server, and then whatever example we took initially of Shweta, and then the server will listen to that ID. It listen to that ID in case of Shweta, but here we have to store that data. So we will store that whatever data is using using this folder ka code. Here, as you can see, axios.post, and we have just mentioned that okay, this data is has come, so the status is okay. It is received. The data is received, and then in the server section, we just get this data. This We just mentioned this data of create, and in the same way, if someone joined the team, okay, let's talk about first the create of about the create team. So if someone just typed XYZ, that XYZ has given the ID, one ID, and which goes to the server, and then as you can see here, mm, okay, as you can see here, it is given an ID, and then which is fetched by server.js here, and then a confirmation is also given about okay, and then in and then when someone if the status has been given okay, then it means that data is stored. Now when someone else will try to join the similar team called XYZ, and will type XYZ here and will click on submit, that this request will go back to the server, and the server.js will check whether one second. Mm, Here it will check whether the create team is available or not, and if the status is okay, it will give as okay. It will it will just give without error. It will just give okay, and then the port will and then it will stored in the particular port whatever is mentioned. We just mentioned it to be 8,000, so whatever the port is mentioned, it will just go to the same post. So this is what is happening in create team, join team, and server.js, whatever. So you might be wondering, like I explained you user.js, server.js, or create team, join team. What is app.js? So talking about app.js, this is nothing but just a framework. Okay, so what it is basically this whole code is a function of React. This whole code is working in React, and in React there is a folder by default which is main called app.js, and you might the people who know front end, they might be knowing that there is an uh, HTML folder in which whenever you click right click it, and when it goes to live server, when you open it on live server, it just opens no matter how much files you have. For example, like tens of thousands of CSS files, or whatever JavaScript files. Like once you just open, I'm not talking about the React websites, I'm just talking about the simple HTML CSS website. If you go to that main HTML index.html and will right click on it and to open the live server, then the main page is HTML index.html only. Then only the website will open. In a similar way, in React, app.js is the main folder, and it you can just understand that it's just combines everything, whatever however and how much amount of folders you're having. It will just collaborate, and it will oh, everything will come on one place. That's what I can say. So that was the logic behind create team and join team. Now I would like to tell about one second. Now I want to tell about like what exactly was what we did and why we chose like MERN stack only. Before this, I would like to tell one thing which I forgot. One second. Okay, in server.js, one thing which I forgot was dollar push. What is dollar push? Because this is a very important term. Um, so here what we have done is we have registered these array in one sentence, and try is basically what we have done is we updated whatever we have requesting the data from the client side. Now the data is received, it is updated, and the ID is given, and then we create a dollar push thing. So what dollar push exactly is? As you can see here, dollar push team user ID and then dollar each and then player name, username, mobile number with a similar array, right? Okay, so as I was saying, after the everything is done, the data is stored, received, and the ID is updated. We have created a thing called dollar push. So a dollar push operator appends a specified value to an array. So it has a specific form. Whatever form I was talking about in the MongoDB thing, like as I told you that there are certain terminology collections in the Mongo. So collections were equivalent to tables in relational databases. They can hold multiple JSON documents. So documents, fields, schema, and model. Four there were four terms in the terminology. Documents were basically equivalent to records or rows of data in SQL. So if you know SQL, you must have studied about rows. If you have not, then just assume that document are rows. Like if you need a data, the data will be of course in rows and columns format, right? So the term given to rows is document, and the term given to columns is field. While schema in the MongoDB is schema-less, but in SQL it defines a schema via table definition. So Mongo schema is a document's data structure that is enforced via application layer. And models we can know that models are higher order constructor that take a schema and create an instance of a document equivalent to records in a relational database. So whatever dollar push here, which has operator which appends to a specific value to an array. So that operator has these formats like fields, values, and in the document format. So here what we are doing is, in the dollar push we are making an object in a user ID, and then in that user ID we are making one more but object, and then we are giving dollar each to the separate arrays, the separate values like name, username, and mobile number. So what exactly we are doing is, we are asking the server to give us information in the dollar push format. Dollar push format means in that particular field value, or in that particular schema which we want. The schema which I just talked about was documents, fields, and schema and models. So in the same way, we just want it to look at. As you can look, in dollar push we created an object called team user ID, and then in that particular user ID we created each, like parent name also, username also, and mobile number also, like for because we want data to be like this. We don't want create team separate and then join team and all. We want data to be like, first of all, user ID, whatever user ID, for example, XYZ, whatever the team, my team name is, and then the player name, and then dollar each means, first of all, suppose I was a leader, so my name, my username, my mobile number. Then suppose there's another person registered using the same user ID, so then in same user ID, dollar each will come, and his name, his username, his mobile number will come, and the process will go on till five registrations. If so, this dollar push is just to specify a field in an embedded document or in an array. So, starting in MongoDB, update operators process documents fields with the string-based names in lexicographic orders. Fields with numerical names are processed in numerical orders. So, if the field is absent in the documents to update, $push adds the array field with the value as its element. If the field is not the array, the operation will fail, because we need the data in a synchronized format so that we can use it for our purposes. Otherwise, if we have data in segregate for in not in segregate format, then we might lose whatever data we might require and whatever application was there for that data. If the value is array, the dollar push will append the whole array as a single element only. To add each element of the value separately, we have to use dollar each modifier with the dollar push. As you can see here, the dollar push we have put, and then an object we created, and inside this we created dollar each. You can also talk about different modifiers of dollar, which is dollar each, dollar slice, dollar sort, dollar position. So, like, I would like to tell about dollar slice. Dollar slice will mean that we want to limit the certain number of arrays to the elements. For example, as you can see, many websites ask for various types of information, which might, like, many information which not be useful as as a server purpose, but so that is limited using dollar slice. Like, you can just slice that a particular information if you want. There's one more attribute called modifier called dollar sort. It will sort your the arrays in order elements to the array. So this requires the use of each dollar modifier, and one more modifier is there, which is dollar position, which specifies the location in the array. So, for example, if I need mobile number of all players first, I'm not interested in player name as a backend, as the database. So I would just specify that particular array, that okay, I want mobile number first, so that I can use using dollar position. When used with modifiers, we can use a dollar push in the operator forms. In the similar way, we can use dollar position, dollar sort, and dollar slice also in the same similar format. The processing of dollar push operation with modifiers occur in the following order. So we have an order which in which the processing of dollar push will occur. Number one is to update an array to add elements in the correct position. Number two is apply sort if specified. Number three is slice the array, and number four is store the array. So again, I would like to repeat. That's because I need to explain using the current example of the front end. So what we did is update the array, whatever array which we were having, like we were having only team ID from create team, uh, but when some another person joined that particular team, so the server needs to update that array to add the element in the correct position, and then it will sort it. Like for example, if we have used like dollar slice or dollar sorting and all, so it will sort it if you have specified, because I just told now that we have four types of modifiers: the dollar each, dollar slice, dollar sort, and dollar position. So if it will sort it. Here we have written dollar each only. So after updating, it will go to a dollar each, and then slice the array. We just mentioned about dollar slice modifier, and then we'll store the array. And that's what we want, right? We want to store the array for our purpose. Then so that's how the dollar push works. That's what I wanted to explain you. Coming So that was a kind of end of uh, this session. uh, I just want to mention a thing that I use MERN-stack here. You guys can use PHP, MySQL, and all XAMPP and all that stuff also, if you want. But I personally use MERN-stack because it is proficient and very useful, and it is free to use also. Many things are free to use, so it is very I can say convenient for me. You can use anything. And okay, so thank you so much for attending this session. And I'll take a leave now. Have a good day. Bye bye.